Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to kind of show you what we're going to be working on, some of the optional stuff in Greenfoot. So what we're going to try and make is this breakout game. So when you're all done, it should look something like this. You'll have a little title screen, click play, and we can start. You can see I can move with my mouse and the paddle will move. I click and it will release the ball, and I start to to go through. There'll be a couple glitches that we'll fix here and there, but that is basically what it should look like when you're done. So we'll have a couple levels that you can actually make. I'll walk you through some of the steps and talk about some things, but this is what you will look at. All right, guys, so let's start Breakout. So when you open up Greenfoot, if you have a blank screen in there or maybe your old program, what you need to do is go to New Scenario and make sure it's Java Scenario. And then we will call this Breakout. And the location, I'm going to make sure it's on my desktop. You can choose wherever you want to on your computer and hit OK. You notice once I hit OK, it made this folder on my desktop, and that's where all my files will need to go if I do some stuff. Okay. So the first thing I want to do here is kind of talk about Greenfoot. It's been a little bit. So we have, these are called classes, and we have 3 of them right now. There's only one we can actually open, which is My World. These 2 are Greenfoot did them for you to kind of have some stuff behind the scenes done for you. So we're going to take this kind of slow. You might have to rewind and watch it again if you have some questions on it, but here we kind of go. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make this screen here a little bit longer than it is right now. So if I open up My World, you can see that I have some code in here. Okay? And right here is this super 600, 400 by 1. And that right there is the width and the height of the world. So I'm going to make this about 700. And if I hit compile and I close it, you can see that it makes my height a little bit bigger. So all you need to do there is change that number. That's your width and that's your height. Right? And that looks pretty good. That kind of fits my window pretty well. A class is made up of 3 things, and you got to be able to always get these first. A class is made up of what we call instance variables. So as we did before, I have you type in instance variables at the top. The next is a constructor, and this one actually says constructor. And then finally, it has methods, okay, which we don't have any right now. Methods are what this world can do. So right now we have a constructor. I know it's a constructor because a constructor is always public in the name of the class. So if you're ever not sure, you can look. That's what a constructor is. Okay. Hit compile and close that up. I like to do that and kind of just get it set up. So the next thing I want to do is make a new class. So we're going to make a class called paddle. And a class, so you just to do that again, right click on actor or control click if you have a Mac and do new subclass. And then type in paddle. Classes always start with a capital letter. It's just convention, so make sure you do that. I don't want you to pick any images for this paddle. We're just going to keep it as blank. Right. So let's open up this class and take a look at it. So this class we don't have. Let's put our instance variables in. So and we don't have any yet. We're just kind of blocking it off. So instance variables. We'll get more into this later. Now we look down here in the last one. It was a constructor. This is not a constructor, and I know that because it's not the same name of the class. So this is paddle, and this is act. So we should always add in a constructor. So to add in a constructor, just type public and the name of a class, and then open brace and make sure you close the brace. So now I have a constructor. This I know is a method because it's not a constructor. So here's my 3 parts. I probably should come up here and put constructor. So I have my instance variables, which I have none. I have a constructor, and I have a method. Okay. Now notice that this is public paddle, and the constructor is an open close parenthesis. When you right click on paddle, you see it says new paddle open close parenthesis. So when you click on this, it is actually calling this constructor, and this constructor will run one time and only once. Notice when I put it in, though, it made a Greenfoot. And if there's nothing in your constructor and you make an object, Greenfoot makes a Greenfoot so you can actually see it. So I want to write over this and make something else. So if you hit Control Space, you will see that there's all these methods that everything that a paddle can do. So if I go to Set Image, there's a thing called Set Image, and this takes in a Greenfoot image. So now I don't have a Greenfoot image yet, but I know that there's a class that is provided to me called Greenfoot image. So I'm going to make that. So this might be a little confusing at first, but you can kind of bear with me and it'll make more sense as we kind of go. So if I type Greenfoot image, and what I've done there, that is kind of no different as before where you've learned like you can type like int x. So what I did was I made a variable called image that holds this thing called a Greenfoot image. Okay. Now, I know that I want to set this equal to new Greenfoot image. And this is going to call the Greenfoot images constructor, which like I said is confusing right now, and that's all right. And this takes in what size you want this Greenfoot image to be. And I'm going to put 100 by 20 because I know I want it to be a little bit wider than it is tall if I'm making a paddle. All right. And now I can set, since I made this image, I can set the image as image. So if I run this now and I put this paddle in here and I go new paddle and I run it, I don't get that Greenfoot anymore. I get nothing because what I've done was I've made a blank, basically I made a blank, this line of code makes a blank sheet of paper and calls that blank sheet of paper image. And then I set the image as that blank sheet of paper. Okay? So all I need to do now is just color in that piece of paper and I should be good. And I need to color it in before I set it. So to color it in, you call the sheet of paper image dot, and this is everything that the Greenfoot image can do. And I know there's one called set color. And then you call color dot, you can hit Control Space. And for right now, we're just going to use these colors. I'll show you how to get any color you want to in a little bit. But we're just going to do color dot, and I'm just going to pick red. Okay? And you might think that this will work now, but once again, still blank. And why that is because this is just setting the color. You haven't actually colored in the sheet of paper. So to color in the sheet of paper, you can do image dot, and there's one called fill. And if you now do this and you right click and go new paddle, you now have a paddle that is 100 pixels wide by 20 pixels high. And maybe I'll change this a little bit. Maybe I'll make it just a little bit wider. So I'll change that to 125. I thought the height was pretty good. And there's a paddle. Okay. So you're going to be ending up doing this with a ball and the brick. I'll help you out with the ball in a second on one thing on there. All right. But the final thing I want to do is basically whenever you hit reset, you see that the paddle goes away. So I want to put that paddle in the world all the time. So you notice when you right click on paddle, you see this new paddle, okay, and it's which is calling this constructor. If you double click on my world and you go to the constructor, because the constructors ran once when you press reset, basically, there is a method called add object. And this takes in an object and the new object to add and the X and Y coordinates. So the X and Y coordinates are pretty easy. If I want it down here, somewhere down here, that's going to be over about halfway, which is 300. And then remember, this is 0, 0. So that's over 300 and down about, I want to leave some space, so down about 600. And then I need to put in, you need to call the constructor. But first you need to create a new, and then you call the paddles constructor. And a lot of students forget those open close parentheses because you're actually calling this. You're making a new paddle, and the constructor is what creates it. So if you do that, I'll jump back to my world, add object, new paddle, 300, 600, you now see that that paddle gets automatically placed in there. I'm going to bump it down just a little bit, so maybe make that 650, and yeah, that looks pretty good. I can keep it there for now, okay? And that is how you create a paddle. All right. So what I want you guys to try is to create a ball and a brick, and just one brick. I'll show you, and we'll put them in. I'll show you how to put them in a lot easier than doing a bunch of them. So the only difference, the brick should be almost identical as the paddle. The only difference with the ball is how to make a circle. So the same thing when you do, and I'll just kind of do this here for you. You still set your color as red or whatever you want. You still do this. This would probably be a square though, like 20 by 20. And then there is an image dot, and there is a fill oval instead of just fill. So you're going to fill the oval. And this is where you, if you read this a little bit, let's just read this a little bit more. Oops. Fill oval. Sorry. So fill oval, and we read this. The X is the coordinate of the upper left corner of the oval to be filled. The Y is the upper left corner of the oval to be filled. The Y corner of the upper left corner, and then the width and the height. So basically, to fill oval, we can do something like 0, 0 with a width of, here, I'm going to just change this for just this sake here. If I did like 25 by 25, with a width of 25 and a height of 25. Don't forget your semicolons at the end, and you can see I created a ball there. So that was the paddle. That's how you would do it. I'm going to change this back for the paddle, but that's how you can do it for an oval for the ball. So I'll come back in the next video. Hopefully you have a ball, just have it sitting here, and all I want is one brick up here for right now. I'll show you how to put rows of bricks. We can do that a lot easier than just doing add object, add object, add object, add object. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and we'll come back from that spot.